Hello, everybody. Welcome. For the past couple days, I've been holding my phone and recording so that there's some video content and also so that people can see my face if they wish to. Of course, you don't have to. And I keep my screen so dim that I can't really see my face very much most of the time when I'm walking and talking. So sometimes it might be that it's not properly framed by the camera or something like this. And usually when I make recordings, most of the time I've just finished meditating. And the meditation that I practice and have been practicing for many years is Zen meditation. Perhaps it's particularly Rinzai Zen. That is the tradition where my practice of meditation originates. And in that tradition, koans may be employed. I fondly remember my teachers, all of the beings who have been my teachers. And that's a lot of beings. But I specifically remember my human teachers and many animal teachers and some insect teachers and some living place teachers. Today is Memorial Day. We have some pretty strange and very abstract traditions in our modern situation. And having single days where we remember something or we celebrate something is one of those traditions. And I suppose that Memorial Day is intended but who is intending it? Something is intended about it, but who is the one intending it, and why are they intending it, and how do they intend it? Is there actually any intending going on, or is it just a habit that keeps getting reiterated because we kind of don't know what else to do, or we're not very creative, or we're dissociated? We're busy paying attention to machines and nonsense. All kinds of things, really, that mostly don't have any meaning. So this is one of my teachers. she doesn't say anything in language to me. And in fact, I don't know what her gender is. And surely, if the plant has a gender, it must be very different from what it means for an animal to have a gender, or to be physically gendered. And that's a quagmire that I'll definitely avoid descending into today. But I like the idea of remembering the sacrifices and the beauty and the gifts of those beings who have been my teachers. And many of the most brilliant of them were not human. Though among those that were human, my mother and my grandmother and my father and my sister, I remember them. And there were some teachers I had in school, and there was Robert Aitken Roshi, my first Zen teacher's teacher, the lineage teacher of the Diamond Sangha lineage. And John Tarrant Roshi, and Joseph Bobro Roshi, and Danielle Terregno Roshi. Though of those men, it's Tarrant and Aitken who stand out in my memory. Aitken because he was my teacher's teacher. I did meet him one time. And Tarrant because he was my first teacher, and I think he's a settled, ripened American Zen teacher. I could have that completely wrong. It's been many years since I've spoken with him. Aitken Roshi passed away, I think around 2002. And Joseph Bobro was my teacher for quite some time. But I still thought of John Tarrant as my actual teacher, even though I was only with him a pretty short time. But the animals that have been my teachers, the dogs we had growing up, various pets, various creatures that I encountered in the living world, and plants too. Cactuses and Venus flytraps, and epiphytes, staghorn ferns, African mask plant, little peyote cactus, salvia plants, all kinds of plant teachers that I've been very close with. I remember them. And of course, the people that I loved, my best friends, most of whom I lost over time, nearly all of whom I lost over time. Eventually I did something or other that made them angry. Those Cooper's hawks, also my teachers. I miss my old best friends. Miles was one of them in my 20s, and Gary was another one. And the girls, Sutton and Emma, Marla, Willow, and Damien, Sutton's boyfriend. These people were like my family for a long time. And before them, I had another family of gamers, Ray and Greg and Rich and Martin, Andy, 4 or 5 other guys. We used to play role-playing games, and boy, we were very tight. The sun has been my teacher, the moon has been my teacher, the stars have been my teachers, the sky, the living places, the ground I walk on. Everything really is my friend and my teacher, even those beings who I might think of as my enemies. Some paper caps on the ground, the kind you throw and they pop, right? They have little stones in them with some gunpowder in there. Pain has been my teacher. Pain of loss. Lost love, lost relationships, lost hope, lost meaning, lost opportunities, lost faculties. Pain has been one of my teachers. And so has joy and the Muses, those who once drove my profoundly creative aspects, and who these days are mostly quiet in my older age. A fact I dearly regret. I'm a little concerned for the innocent people walking near where the Cooper's hawks are. It may be that they really only have it in for me, but I'm not sure about that. And I'm not sure they exactly have it in for me. I think there was just some miscommunication there between us for a while, which hopefully is no longer the case, though I pay close attention to their signals now, because they taught me to. Tragedy has been one of my teachers. I suppose on this day that we call in the United States Memorial Day, the idea is to remember those who gave their lives in war for us to have a country. It's a weird idea in a lot of ways, though in some ways I can understand it. It just seems so tragic. I've never... I mean, like many little boys who grew up in the time I grew up, we played war games. And in fact, later when I was a teenager and we were into role-playing games, we also played technical war games with miniatures. We had naval battles and tank battles and starship battles, all kinds of things. And it was extremely fun to do these things, but nobody was being killed by our games. When I was growing up, the Vietnam War was in full swing and had been for some time. John F. Kennedy was assassinated the month before I was born. And I don't know a great deal about him as a person, but as an orator, he was exceptional. Exceptionally profound orator, capable of truly inspiring human beings to reach for something beyond the traps we ordinarily find ourselves ensnared by, and generally continue to build and iterate and distribute. I understand that people gave their lives in wartime in an attempt to defend something. Whatever that something may have been, it no longer is. And what it is now is very fucking weird. I mean, deeply, profoundly weird. And I don't trust it, whatever it is. I don't know what the United States is. It looks like a mangled up mess of tangled, conflicted, bizarre, often toxic, aggressive, non-human agendas and imperatives and commerce and spectacle and bullshit and dying and killing and rape. I mean, it just looks like a mess to me. And the little portions of it that aren't, and some of the traditions that aren't quite as toxic, okay, I understand those, you know, to a degree, but what we call education is not education. What we call society has nothing to do with being social. Our government is not a government. It's an atrocity exhibition. And it has been for a long fucking time. And I've heard people say, yes, well, you can say all these things, but you live in, the fact that you can say these things means you live in one of the best places you can live. All right, I agree. So it's not the meanest rapist on the block. But it's a fucking mess, and it's terrifying. And the people who gave their lives to preserve something, it was not this they hoped to preserve with their dying breath. It was something noble and beautiful about the potential of human beings to form and embody societies that were noble and intelligent, humane, kind, generous, wise, brilliant, beautiful, worth preserving. And this, alas, we have quite severely and severally failed to do, whoever we might be in that sentence. Now we live in a bad science fiction novel, or a clusterfuck of bad science fiction novels that are just ramming into each other with ever greater intensity to see which 73 of them come out close to the top and can dominate the others, or some crazy ass crap like that. I have reverence for those who gave their lives to protect something they imagined could be true or might be real. But I have at least as much reverence, and probably more, for the thousands of children that grew up tortured by the insanity that our nation produces like poisonous milk and transmits to every home and life and mind. And I have reverence for the mothers and the fathers and the children who've grown up here, lived and died here, often never really knowing what it means to be human or what it could mean to be human, because they're so trapped in a system of financial and commercial and vocational slavery that they never see the outside of it in their entire lives, and they live in little boxes. And they watch things on television because they don't have lives, and they watch things on the computers because there's nothing noble or interesting about their existence, and they're dying of loneliness and suffering inside, and they're isolated, and they're impoverished in ways that before there was money, it was impossible for people to become impoverished in these ways. I have reverence for them. They've died in the war too. It's just the different war. It's the war of the collectives against the living world and the humans. It's weird. It's very deeply weird. But actually, what I was thinking about today when after I was meditating, we try not to do a lot of thinking while we sit zazen. Thoughts creep in, it happens. But we try to just let them dissolve away and return our focus to breathing and the koan. And the meditation is very simple in this sense, right? There's nothing elaborate about it. It's very simple. Just follow the breath with one's attention, sink down into one's hara and the belly, with one's awareness, and from that hara, breathe. Perhaps follow the koan. It's a challenging practice for all of its simplicity. I love the hummingbird sage. There's some white sage there too, which I also love. And I love the blue sage. I like all the sage. What I was thinking was, it might be wonderful if we used Memorial Day differently, to remember what is important for us to preserve and to remain aware of and to embody and to carry with us and to give to one another in life as human beings, as living beings, as animals, as beings themselves, as organisms, as participants in the universe who are conscious and aware of our capacities for participation in the universe to some degree. Even if that degree is often cruelly circumcised by our culture and what we're exposed to and how we are imprinted as human beings in modern cultures. And frankly, I am terrified for the children who are alive and who are children today. At least when I was a child, we were not yet competing against against photographs for our own survival. Data was not more important than our lives. We played outdoors, we invented games, we had some toys. And it was possible to have elaborate toys if you could afford them. But there were no computers. In fact, there weren't even calculators. What we had were adding machines, which were mechanical pre-calculators. And nobody paid much attention to those. They didn't pop up everywhere you looked. You didn't have to carry one with you and have it tap you on the shoulder every 15 seconds when some signal from somewhere, mostly meaningless, comes in to disturb what otherwise might have been, a mind. So I'm terrified for the children born today. Of course, the humans are resilient and they adapt, but as they adapt, too often very important faculties are sacrificed and become tokenized and represented and sold back to us in broken forms, because the hole inside us that's missing where those faculties used to thrive, it aches, and we want something to put there to stop that aching. And even if I speak only for myself, then so be it. But I suspect many of you will understand what I'm pointing at. And so I think it would be wonderful if for Memorial Day we would remember what it meant to be human, what it can mean to be human, and particularly the incredible importance of memory to being human, because whatever damages memory damages everything else we can be. Everything we can be is founded on memory. And this word, also related words like mnemonic, which is a term that can mean an abbreviation, but in computer science can also mean an instruction, I believe. And the word meme, M-E-M-E, Cooper's hawk. Oh, chasing off a red tail. You see, right now, it's nesting's time. A new generation is being born for the birds. And the Cooper's hawks are very busy, very intent, very focused on ensuring not just the safety of their young, if they have them yet, but the territorial boundaries of where they nest and live. And I've never seen them quite this intensely concerned about it before. But I'm paying attention, and it's important. So, memory and similar words, these words come from the Greek term or name, Mnemosyne. Let's see if I can spell this. It's going to be tough. Mnemosyne. Mnemosyne. And Mnemosyne was understood to be the mother of the Muses, but the origin of all of the faculties that human beings may enjoy, because without memory, what faculties will you have? None. So memory is the primordial meta faculty. And when I was a child, long before I was a child, Jules Verne wrote science fiction books. Staggeringly prophetic books. And one of them was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And this book was about a man whose name was Captain Nemo, who is the Mnemosyne's avatar, right? He's her protector, and he defends the oceans against the humans because the humans are so fucking stupid that they've decided that the oceans are a good place to conduct their fucking wars. I'm not usually angry in my videos, but today I'm willing to be upset. So Captain Nemo was one of my heroes as a child. He adored the living beings of the ocean and intended to defend them at all costs against human incursion and devastation. And not too many people probably ever recognize that his name comes from Mnemosyne. There's a similar avatar that people haven't recognized, where his name comes from. His name is Robin Hood. And I won't say too much about this, I'll leave it to my intrepid listeners to understand, but he is the Robin of the Little Hood. And as such, he comes before all other archers, and therefore none are his equal. So today, I'd like to celebrate memory, Mnemosyne, the faculties that emerge when our memories are vital and vibrant and are nourished and developed in beautiful, meaningful, creative, playful, intelligent ways. If we're going to have a day called Memorial Day, I do not wish to simply remember war. And as I was saying, when I was a child, the Vietnam War was a constant. And it was horrific. And it was terrible. And all of the children knew that it was wrong. And it was horrible. And that the humans, the adults, must be so incredibly stupid to do something like this. Not just for a day or a week or a month, for years on end. To kill each other and burn down the world. For nothing, for dumb, ridiculous, meaningless nonsense. Almost all the children that were alive when I was little, we believed that war and environmental atrocity would have to come to an end in our lifetimes, and we agreed that we'd be willing to give our lives to ensure that happened. It didn't happen. The humans found new ways to make war, new places inside us to make war, not just outside us. New machines, new weapons, new factories, new atrocities, new horrors, and new ways of hiding them. So let's remember that, because those people who gave their lives did not give their lives for this. They gave their lives in hope of something beautiful and human. And if they were confused, so be it, but in their hearts there was something true. That I respect, not the wars. And the people who sign up to defend their country, I can't say something universal about that. But what I know is that many of those who initially made that choice became involved in a religion. And either the religion was that the United States is good and true and great, or it started out that way and they figured out something more like what was actually going on, which was that the United States is full of shit and is lying and is making war for money and for profit and for other deadly ignorant reasons. And there might be some shreds of truth in both perspectives. I don't know. But I'm more inclined to the second one because the world is too delicate for us to continue to make war. It has to have an end. We must bring it to an end. We have to stop making war and make something at least vaguely resembling survivable societies and collectives and intelligences. And if we're not making that, there's no possibility of justifying war. There's no justification for that kind of idiocy. It's insane. And people will say things like, people will say things. They'll say things like, well, we have to make war because if we don't, the other people will. And so, yeah, that means that all games are dragged down to the worst common denominator of the crappiest game that someone at the table is willing to play. Now, all games will be dominated by that. That's not fucking survivable. That is completely, absolutely stupid. All right, time for me to get off my little rage boat for a moment and come back to memory. So all of this that you see in the background here, all these trees and plants, the sky, the stars, the earth, all these creatures, all these organisms, and all their relationships, they are forms of living memory. They are the body of Mnemosyne. And we are expressions of that body, and our capacity to form minds depends intimately, moment to moment, second to second, instant to instant, on the diverse health of all of these living beings and the living places. And as those collapse, our minds collapse with them, because they are the origins of our minds. Moment to moment, not just in long-term cause-effect cycles, though that way too. So when I have the intention to celebrate today memory, Mnemosyne, I'm celebrating all beings, all the living places, the universe itself, the origins of time-space. There's nothing that isn't memory. There's certainly nothing meaningful that isn't memory. All of our technologies can be understood meaningfully as concretizations of memory, right? The forks and knives in our silverware drawers, those are concretizations of the history of humans eating food. So really, there isn't anything that isn't memory. And it's not at war with itself, in case you can't tell, right? This is not a fucking battlefield. Do you see things exploding and attacking each other and going apeshit crazy for the dumbest reasons imaginable here? No, you don't. And neither do I. Look how peaceful this is. These seeds I touch. You can see all the pollen. Yeah. The beautiful pollen, the living dust. It's so soft. It's a magical substance, that pollen. I promise you. Rich with memory. The stuff we call DNA, our genes, which humans still have but the slightest of understandings of, is memory. So let us celebrate this faculty, this meta faculty from which all other faculties emerge, in all of its forms and kinds, not merely the kind that we have in our mind, where we remember thinking or seeing or learning something, something conscious, something cognitive, but also the memory that our bodies are, right? That the living beings are. If we have respect and reverence for this, it will continue to teach us, and we can grow together inside the living little bubble that we have here on this planet for the moment. But as the people and the collectives are destroying the ecologies, they're ripping the anciently conserved structures of memory apart, and they're replacing them with pieces of machinery and toxicity and death. And there will be an end to this behavior. It may not come today, but there will be an end to this behavior. So today, on Memorial Day, I remember war, but not with reverence, with disdain. I remember memory. I remember mothers, fathers, children. I remember the animals. I remember the living places. I remember beauty and learning and unity and communion. With reverence and hope, I remember love. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again soon.